for some of the terms that we're going to discuss here, that we'll be using on the show. What is dopamine? How does it work? And why does it need to be blocked in schizophrenic patients? And how would you define schizophrenia?
Well, those are several questions. I'll start with the dopamine. Dopamine is what we call a neurotransmitter. It bounces back and forth between neurons in the brain, and it's a reward chemical. It's a chemical that evolution used to encourage prehistoric people to engage in things like reproduction, finding food, anything that fostered survival and reproduction. But what happened 50,000 years ago is that we got language. And 50,000 years is a drop in the bucket. Hominins or human like animals have been around for 6 or 7 million years. 50,000 is a drop in the bucket. I like to use the analogy if you take 3 yardsticks, each one representing 2 million years, language has been around for less than the last inch. And language totally revolutionized how we use our brains. So this all ties together in the creation of mental illness and in some physical illnesses like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Tourette's, restless legs, stuttering, things like that. So it's all interconnected and it's evolutionary based. We have to be looking at that.
And as far as the evolution of language, how does that alter the cognitive framework of early humans? And how does that shift relate to mental health changes?
Well, I may say some things that shock you or surprise you. But
Mhm.
let me start with this. Mental illness is entirely due to the evolutionary moment that we find ourselves in. 50,000 years ago, there was no mental illness. 20,000 years from now, there will be no mental illness as we define it. So, right now, because we're in this unique evolutionary moment, we're seeing mental illness. But if we wait 20,000 years, and not many of us will have that luxury, it will be gone because it's entirely due to this transformative change in how we use our brains
Mhm.
brought about by language, which is very recent, very, very recent. And not everyone's on board with it yet. Those who are least on board are the ones who have mental illness. I call them evolution's dispossessed. For 80% of the population, we cope fine with these changes, but there's still 20% that may get schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression, anxiety disorders, who are not processing dopamine in quite the best way that they should.
How would you, I guess, in your book, you talk about schizophrenics kind of being these people that didn't necessarily evolve. Um, so how would you describe it if you were trying to explain it to someone that didn't understand? Um, I think a lot of us understand schizophrenia as maybe a combination of a lot of different kind of disorders because not many of us actually went to school to figure this out, and many of us have been taught that schizophrenia has something to do with multiple personalities.
Yeah, that I would like to disagree with.
Sure.
Most people will tell you it has nothing to do with multiple personalities. Think about this.
Hmm.
You're going through high school,
Hmm.
you're doing okay, you have a group of friends, your grades are okay. Suddenly, around the age of 18, late high school, early college, everyone starts treating you differently, and you have no idea why. They treat you like you're incompetent, like you're saying crazy things, and you don't understand it. Now, to everyone else, you have changed greatly. And what they notice is that you've stopped caring about your appearance, you've
Hmm.
withdrawn from your friends and your family, and you started to say strange things like, the FBI is following me, or they're tapping into my cell phone and my computer, or I'm hearing voices from the vents. And what has happened is that the way you're thinking has regressed to the type of thinking that we had prior to language.
Mhm.
Lost all that modern complexity. So now you're trying to cope through life with a much more primitive type of thought process. The thought process that kids have,
Mhm.
people who use psychedelics have, that we all have when we're sleeping, you are now stuck with permanently because of this desuppression of dopamine. So it's a chronic, persistent mental illness that has changed the way you think, the complexity of your thought process, and that's entirely due to the evolutionary moment that we're in.